Cartoon recaps here. Today I will be recapping the Marvel What If Season 2 Episode 1 to 4. Spoilers ahead, relax and enjoy. The history of this alternate nebula was pretty much the same as nebulas of Earth 616. She was part of the Black Order and did dirty bidding for Thanos, but at some point, Ronan stabbed Thanos in the back and ran away with Gamora, leaving Nebula dead. While Nebula was floating in space along with the debris following the destruction of her ship, she was discovered by the Nova Corps who brought her back to life. To repay the kindness they gave to her, Nebula joins the Nova Corps and took the Nova Oath, but she narrates to us in her own words that the same trouble that destroyed her old home has now come to take her new home. Ronan and his forces shows up and attacks Xander to its verge of destruction. Out of options, the leader of the Nova Corps made a desperate move. They locked down the city of Xander under an impenetrable planetary shield designed to last for 50 years, putting the planet out of Ronan's reach. City of Xander was saved for a time being, but at very terrifying cost. Just 5 years of Xander isolation from the world brought out the worst of everyone. There was no communication with outside space, no supplies, less food, no anything. If you were stuck on the planet at that time, you were stuck and sealed for the next 50 years. One of the first mysteries we see Nebula solving is the murder of Yondu. He was found in a back alley, and this variant of Nebula explains that she also has a history with him. She puts her skills into use, and some kind of green schematic is shown on screen, which reveals Yondu's memories. She also discovers a strange schematic weapon. Yondu gave up his life to protect the crime scene. She gets feedback from the Nova Corps who are clueless as to what the schematic is for. It becomes clear to her that Yondu got into a bigger mess than ever. Nebula is yet to accept the death of Yondu, and she defends him before Nova Prime. But right now, this is not the burning problem. On a secure line, Nova Prime informs Nebula that Xander is on the brink, all because of Yondu's involvement with dark forces. Nebula gets to realize that Xander has until dawn, otherwise it will be found in ruins. Now, she has to follow Nova Prime's orders and her instincts too, so Xander can see another sunrise. Without delay, Nebula finds Howard, the duck, in his casino, where she gets additional information that the schematic is an old data code that contains many things including the source code of the shield generator. This means one thing: someone is planning to break the planetary shield and invade Xander. On hearing this, Nebula decides to penetrate the mainframe and destroy the codes before the dark forces lay their hands on them. Howard doesn't support this idea, as it is dangerous and not some fancy thing she could easily do. Nobody enters the mainframe premises and comes out alive, but Nebula seems ready to take on this case. She must get inside the mainframe, and this can only happen with the help of Yon-Rogg, who is an expert at breaching high-end security. Even though Nebula once arrested him for infiltrating Xandarian systems and sending him to prison, she destroys the lock of his cell and kills the robot on guard. Nebula's plan: extremely weird. As soon as Nebula and Yon-Rogg step out of the cell, more than 100 guns are aimed at them, but Nebula releases the other prisoners to attack the robotic soldiers. Swift escape it is. They arrive at the mainframe premises, and Yon-Rogg finds a shortcut down the circuit instead of the 2,200 stories. He hacks into the mainframe and finally unlocks the access to the data core. It may sound funny and serious at the same time, but this data core has neither access ports, control panels, nor disk drives. Yet Nebula is determined to destroy it and save Xander, so she warns Yon-Rogg not to touch anything. Nebula begins the process of logging into the core before downloading the source code files into her system. Before she deletes the files, the dubious Yon-Rogg fixes a drive into her system to collect the source files. He mentions that Ronan has better use for it, and of course, Xander should expect the worst. Nebula tries to go after Yon-Rogg, but it's of no use as Nova Prime is also an accomplice. This is when she realizes that it was all a trap. Nova Prime discloses that Ronan promised to keep her in charge of her cooperation, more reason why she recruited a cyborg like Nebula to access the data core. Before she leaves, Nova Prime orders the other Corps militants to destroy Nebula. Surprisingly, the cyborg escapes their electric beatings and meets a riot in town. The citizens are protesting against the Nova Corps. This time, Nebula is lashed at too. Luckily, she makes it to Howard's casino, a total wreck of herself with her processors wearing on their own. Kind enough, Howard and his boys fix Nebula up, only for her to wake up normal again and ask for guns. Regardless of Nebula's mention that Nova Prime now works with Ronan, and Xander will be destroyed soon if she doesn't help out, Howard thinks releasing guns will be bad for his business. But on hearing that his liquor license will be seized soon, he agrees to get involved in Nebula's plan. Meanwhile, Nova Prime and her men sweep the entire Nova Corps, in preparation to open the shield before dawn. What if the shield is broken and Ronan enters Xander? Let's see how that goes. In the blink of an eye, Nebula and her new team, Howard, Gurpot, and Korg, penetrate the premises only to meet Nova Prime open the shield already. However, Nebula closes the shield and destroys Ronan's ships alongside it too. It's a machine-to-machine thing, and Nova Prime realizes that Nebula crossed her out on this by twisting the codes. Nova Prime proceeds to escape, but the cyborg is fast enough to catch her before the emergency plane takeoff is activated. The plane crashes, leaving Nova Prime to fall into the deepest part of the unknown. And for the people of Xandar, they might have no worries forever, all thanks to the supernova Korfman, Nebula. The quest for redemption continues, and the second episode takes us to New York, where Peggy Carter, a scientist, and her team struggle to keep invaders out of the U.S. airspace. Their efforts fail when a pod ship lands on the road, and Peter Quill, the son of Ego, the celestial being, emerges from the ship. He is determined to destroy the universe and the very place he calls home. 6 months before this very scene, the Ravagers were sent to abduct Peter Quill, but the captor chose to raise the young kid as his own. The whole story changes in this universe when Yondu hands Peter over to his father, Ego, the celestial being. Meanwhile, Ego intends to remake the universe in his image, a plan he calls the expansion, and with Peter by his side, this dream will be a reality. Let's now ponder on the question, what if Peter fails to bring this expansion dream to reality? Back in New York, the orbital intelligence discovers that Peter is not just an ordinary kid, but a child with a nuclear arsenal running in his veins. There might be a team that can save Manhattan from this danger, even if Howard Stark, the director, doesn't support the idea proposed by Peggy. Meanwhile, Hank, the crusty man, needs to report to the headquarters to salvage the situation. And this time, he comes in with Hope, his daughter. They need to be fast with their preparations, but Hope is amazed at the arrival of King Chaka of the Wakanda Kingdom. It is now a global issue, as even the Winter Soldier, the world's deadliest assassin, is involved too. Peggy feels the Winter Soldier looks like Bucky Barnes, a man who used to be on their team, but Howard debunks this claim. Peter Quill is still on the move, and the team must do their best to intercept him at Coney Island. Otherwise, nobody will live in the entire eastern seaboard for decades to come. They become more relaxed when they see the famous Dr. Wendy Lawson of the U.S. Air Force. She will be their pilot to Coney Island. T'Chaka. Peter doesn't look threatening at all, but he takes back his words when Peter displays his nuclear power. Surprisingly, Peter plays on the tilt wheel with a doll, only for this little happiness to be disrupted by the teen's plan to lure him away. While Lawson proceeds to hack the pod ship, Peter is chased by bugs into the park house. Hank runs after him, hoping to capture the child, only for Peter to destroy the entire building. The team must retreat or face the risk of losing the planet to save it. Thor comes in to save the team from Peter's destructive hands, and they finally capture him. He tells the orbital intelligence about the fallen armies of the 9 realms, which Peter has destroyed. To save Earth, the only realm left, they must destroy the celestial seedling, and this must be done by a celestial being. While they discuss the means to do this, Hope wanders away with her Walkman, which leads her to find Peter locked up in the detainment facility. Both of them become friends, and Hope releases Peter with her father's keycard, giving him directions on how to get to his home in Missouri. Their bond becomes stronger when Hope hands her Walkman to Peter. A friendship is knitting its way in this uptight situation. It's quite late when the team catches up with Hope. Peter is already out of the facility. The team must find him or lose the entire planet to the expansion plan. But Hope wants them to help her new friend. Meanwhile, Ego finds it difficult to connect with Peter, who is already on his way to Missouri. There is no time anymore, and this is when he takes it upon himself to finish the job. In other words, it means Earth is in trouble. The seedling's master is near. Even the intelligence team feels this too, so they devise a new plan. Bring Peter in and let him fight against Ego. Quite difficult, yes, but that's the only way out. Lawson and Hank go after the kid, leaving the rest of the team to handle Ego. The celestial being is here for what is his, and of course, he makes it clear of his plan to expand on Earth and make everyone look exactly like him. However, the team is fully prepared for him, and they fight back with every strength in them. The Winter Soldier is responsible for evacuating the seedling from the headquarters. Instead, he is in Missouri aiming for Peter's head. Fortunately, Howard intercepts this mission, convincing him to let the boy be. He finally believes that the Winter Soldier is Bucky. As for Hank, he succeeds in persuading Peter to join their team. Right on time, they capture the seedling from Ego's grasp. What if Peter can't handle Ego? Well, you can never tell. It takes a painful truth for Peter to kill Ego, the truth about his mother's death, and the real captor. It's been Ego all along. This anger and pain drives Peter to send Ego into extinction once and for all. The team celebrates their victory with a banquet, but they must suit up once again and avenge the planet's ego destroyed in his ridiculous plan. Yuletide stories are always sweeter, and the third episode comes with one. Trust the watcher to give us a little intro on this one. The superheroes close the JRVS for a short maintenance before the Avengers holiday party begins. Maria Hill reminds Happy Hogan, the head of security, to be on guard when the party starts. Just so you know too, Justin Hammer, the corrupt defense contractor, is on the loose after his release from prison. This universe may be in his favor as he interrupts their party with his armed men. Hammer gets hold of the programming tablet and reprograms the robots to target all staff on site. Next on his list is Hulk's blood, an antigen serum, which he hopes will turn him into a superhero. Things get chaotic, and Hogan opts to get the samples at Tony's lab while Hill goes after Hammer. No one beats Hill when it comes to aiming perfectly, and she does this to scare Hammer at the bar. She fails at this the moment a robot attacks her from behind. Meanwhile, Hogan doesn't seem an expert at getting unnoticed. He crashes into the lab, attracting the attention of Hammer's men. Still determined to achieve his mission, Hogan searches for the sample, but his clumsiness makes him inject himself with the serum instead. The chase becomes intense when Hammer realizes that Hogan's body now contains the serum. Before she destroys the walkie-talkie, Maria begs Hogan to save the tower and never succumb to Hammer. Confused about what to do, Hogan calls Natasha Romanoff, an Avenger, to help him, but Natasha is at the mercy of a former Hydra agent. There's no one else to help him, and when Hogan reaches out to Darcy, the intern at the HQ, she accepts to help him put on the JRVS immediately. Don't get excited too early because Hammer came prepared. He intercepts their communication and kidnaps Darcy from the sub-basement, all to make Hogan surrender. But Hogan shows up, terrorizing the robots and Hammer's men too. He asks Maria and Darcy to upload the JRVIs as soon as possible while he runs to the armory to find Hammer. The contractor is always cunning, and this time he controls Iron Man's suit to fight Hogan. Darcy and Maria realize that the JRVIs only works to call the Avengers, leaving Hogan to fight Hammer until they arrive. Quite right, the Avengers show up as expected, but they attack Hogan, leaving Hammer to ponder on the next step to take. It takes Darcy's intervention before they focus on the bad guy, Hammer. With just one heavy breath, Hammer goes down the building, but Hogan saves him in the spirit of Christmas. Not even Tony could believe Hogan pulled this off. They all clap in unison to show their respect for him. The holiday party must hold as promised, with Hogan excited to eat after that unexpected fight. In the next episode, we see something much more captivating than the other episodes. The heroes of the multiverse gather to defeat Gamora, the daughter of the Mad Titan. But first, the watcher thinks we should hear her story. It all begins when the Iron Man finds himself lost on planet Sakaar, where the Grandmaster is excited to see him. There's no going back to Earth for now, until Grandmaster's 21st birthday celebration is over. When Iron Man enters the hall, he finds out that it is an intergalactic race, which the people of Sakaar call Grand Pricks. On seeing the people throw tin cans and animals at the losers, he finds it a little barbaric. But it all gets interesting when the Grandmaster releases his champion, a gigantic monster that knocks off the drivers. This doesn't interest Iron Man, and he proceeds to leave, only to be stopped by Gamora, who attacks him violently. Grandmaster's birthday is ruined, so he places the two of them in a private room, alongside Korg, one of the racers. This is when he learns that the Grandmaster is a wicked ruler. Using his powers, Iron Man escapes with Korg, leaving Gamora behind, only to see Gamora attack them from behind again. She doesn't give Iron Man peace as she seeks to avenge his attack on her father Thanos. Iron Man is about to destroy her too, but on hearing Grandmaster's announcement to catch him, he leads her to Sakaar's soldiers. It's upon him to save this planet from the Grandmaster and his death ways. Iron Man plans to leave Sakaar better than he found it. To achieve this, he needs a driver, and this is where she comes in. Bad news, Iron Man invites Grandmaster to a race. The winner takes it all. It intrigues the Grandmaster so much that he involves Gamora and Topaz, his right-hand man. The race begins at the Grandmaster's cue, but it is more interesting than you ever thought. He inputs obstacles to stop Iron Man from winning, but it gets more intense. Amidst the race, Gamora is still after the man she thinks is the villain, only to get melted after a soft conversation with her over the comms. She helps him destroy the monsters Grandmaster put up, making him get closer to the finish line. Iron Man doubles his speed, and fortunately, he wins the race against Grandmaster. The planet's ruler doesn't seem pleased with this, calling Topaz to kill Iron Man. Guess who receives the outcome of his command? Grandmaster himself. Topaz's staff melts him to ashes, and the people of Sakaar are free forever. It's not yet over anyway. Gamora is still on watch, and she captures Iron Man to bring before Thanos. What if she has a second plan? Thanos is evil after all, and together with Iron Man, Gamora puts an end to her father's life. It sounds quite easy, but what if it's planet Earth on a list to be destroyed next? Thank you for watching, guys. If you love animation movies, please subscribe to this channel and keep watching. Bye.